Hi, I'm Michael Cook. I'm a composer with a degree from the University of North Texas, whose music's been published since the mid 90s. And I'm a founding member of the San Francisco Composers Chamber Orchestra, which this year will be our 23rd year. I have been moving my music from Finale to Dorico this past month. And I started with one particular small collection I have that I call Love Letters. That is should be very simple, no modern techniques in it, mostly piano pieces and small chamber works. This particular video is on the issues that I ran into with one of these pieces. I thought it might be useful for some people. One of the things that I hear from other composers is they are just going to export their music from Finale into Music XML and leave it. If they need to later on, make an edit or a change for somebody, they'll then tackle the work. I want to present this as information that may help people in that situation, as it may not be the safe choice, depending on how long in the future it is for you to do this upgrade. Now, this is more important for people who use Apple computers, OS X computers, because they have a shorter lifespan of running software. The history is they change their chipsets and all this different kind of stuff, and the software, frequently no longer runs. I've been through that a lot. I think for people running Windows, you probably have a lot longer time frame to run an old copy of Finale. It seems that with Windows, you can use that software for a really, really long time before it stops running. Now, I say that because, as you'll see with the content that I'm about to present, that if you can't go back into Finale and make some changes, you may have difficulty with that import. You may just make you have to redo lots of sections of the work. So, kind of a warning on that. Now, I am not a Dorico expert. I barely know the software. I am super computer savvy, but I am just learning this. In fact, even in this, you'll see as I learn as I go. I find that I am constantly having to do hour-long tutorials to figure out how to do things because it's not always just obvious from the interface. So hopefully this will help some people and also may provide information of what could happen as you try and port some of your music from Finale to Dorico. All right, so this is the last piece in the Love Letters collection and I'm trying to get it moved over. And I have this part where I have some grace notes before a triplet here. And so I've exported that as an XML. So it's a fresh XML import. So I'm going to import that. And this is what I get. And if I go to that, follow the flute part and go to that same measure where I get to the solo part, it dies. It gets to the grace notes and then just craps out, and that's it. Nothing more after that. Okay, that is not so good. So if I do the same thing in MuseScore, which is this one, then it opens this up and I get to that same measure. Yeah. So it's this measure 48, and so everything's there. Now this is still wonky. Um, so this is still off. So there's got to be something a little bit weird in that XML file, but MuseScore handles it pretty well. It gives me the notes afterwards and doesn't sort of just crop out and delete. So their error handling is a lot better. Though they do have this really weird stuff going on in the percussion. For some reason, it's like twice as big of everything. So that's pretty weird. If I export this as a MusicXML and import that into Dorico, then I go to measure 48. And yeah, I got notes afterwards and get that. So that's one way of dealing with this. Actually also sort of fixed the percussion. If you notice, this one has the right 2 staff percussion, and other one I imported has 3 lines. Okay, so the other thing I found is if I go into Finale and just delete these 2 grace notes, then import that, and go to measure 48. I have all the notes afterwards. I can just put in those grace notes. I mean, it'd be really nice if Dorico had better error handling like MuseScore, but it's a workaround for this because I've run it a few times where Dorico eats half my piece because it doesn't like, it seems to be always related to triplets. It seems not like how they're across the bar or, complicated triplets, and it just eats the whole piece, or at least eats sections of the piece for certain instruments. Past, I've just been putting those aside and just trying to do stuff that's easy. I'm sort of at the point now where I had to get it done, so I had to figure out what was going on. There's a couple other weird things that I ran into. I get different results for the percussion. So like here you see it says area player and snare drum. And the only thing I changed was removing the grace notes. And, I still have the 3 lines when I should only have 2, but I get a different name here than if I go to this one where it says percussion snare drum clave. I get 3 here. It doesn't play back right. This one is all snare drum. So changing just the grace notes caused this to play back as all snare drum, while this one does play back correctly, which is weird. The one from imported in from after MuseScore did it, I think all plays back as claves. Yeah. So I got 3 different things that are all wonky. This one I lose my flute, but the percussion plays back correctly. This one, my percussion is all snare drums. And this one is all claves. This one, though, I do have the vibes playing as vibes. That's nice. But this one plays as piano for some reason. Again, the only thing I changed from this one to this one was deleting the grace notes. It's very weird. What I ended up doing was copying the results from here for the flute and pasting it in here because the percussion was working and it was a little bit easier than dealing with ironing out all the percussion just right. For the percussion to fix this so that it looks right, I found that you can go into the percussion kit and I can go in and then just delete that one. That's not needed. And now it looks right and plays back right. So, did something very similar with the vibes. I actually first moved all of this up into the upper one. That way I just had some better control. So you can select which ones you want. You can go to paste special and say move to staff above. Those work pretty good. The problem ones were at the very beginning where I have this one's where I have kind of the low Ds for the 4-octave vibes. But you can do the same thing and you get this. So that's not really good. So I left these and then I just redid this instrument and pitch percussion, vibraphone, 4-octave. And then that collapsed everything. So that's great. But then these are kind of wonky. So then I had to go in and select it and then change its voice to a new stem down voice. And now it looks right. Although you have to select. You can do a filter on this or select it as a big group so that you can do all of these. So yeah, like that one. Yeah, there they all take off. Okay, so here, this orchestra piece here, the flute and the soprano are soloists. They have an optional written out solo for people who don't want to improvise it, but they can also just use the chords and do their own solo, which is what I encourage people to do. It's not really a jazz piece by any stretch of the means. So everything else is fully notated out. This piece, so I was adding back in the chord symbols for the flute part so that they would have the know what chords they can solo over. And a couple of things happened that was very confusing. So I would select this and then I would do the shift Q to bring up the pop-up to put in the notes and I would type it in. But what I found that
if I typed in D dim, let's say I wanted this to be a diminished chord, it gave me a different chord than when I typed in. So this was confusing. It also put it in 3 locations. I only really needed it on flute, but it put it in 3 locations. Okay, so that certainly sent me back to the drawing board of figuring out what's going on. So yeah, here's a diminished here. So the first solution, after researching, I found the fix to this. So here you have lots of choices in engraving options. So you can bring up your engraving options and select chord symbols, and then they give you all sorts of different options, from doing it in solfege or Nashville. So instead of you just typing in what you want in the pop-up, you have to go in and actually match it to their system here. So they got pretty much all sorts of all the options you would need. It just was pretty confusing to me that I couldn't just type in what I wanted to use it, that it then had to actually go in and control the library to set what I want. But now I apply that, and look, now I have the diminished I wanted for this. So that's great. Now I had to then do the research and figure out why I had this in a whole bunch of places. So what I found out is they're trying to be very helpful, and they have it to automatically put it in rhythm section instruments. So that's why I got it in the bass here. I don't know why it went to this, except for that's a possible solo instrument, but you have to sort of right click on the instrument, and you have to then go to chord symbols, and you have to change what you're saying. So here it says show for that. Okay, so I have to then go to soprano here, and then go to chord symbols. I don't know why it's showing. Okay, so there at least gets rid of it there. And contrabass. Again, show for. That I don't want that. Nope, and then we get rid of it. Yeah, that gets rid of it. So I have to hide it. So I have to go through each one of these, I guess, to change it. I don't know. Maybe there's a better way, but that's kind of what it is. So I'm going to scroll down to, yeah, so now I get down to here, and this is where I want it to be shown here. So if I go to here, I don't want selection things. Maybe I'll try all instruments, and that seems to work. And then go here. And yeah, I'm not sure how to hide it there. Okay. More research, I figured out there is a way to hide this. You now have to define a chord region. All right. So this is what's supposed to happen. Let's give this a shot. So I'm just going to switch to gallery view, make this a little easier. I want chords to show up here on this flute section because that's the optional written out solo. or you can improvise on the chords. So I select that. All right, that's the whole region I want. And then I go to write and I create chord symbol region. Okay, and I will do the same thing here on the part where I have to still put in the optional solo. For the saxophone. That's a little harder, I guess I have to go make it. Oh yeah, I guess I don't have to make it really small. Or make multiple region, and alright, I'll do this one other way. So you can grow the region. Alright, so I'm going to select this, and then I will come back here and say create chord region. Oops, it only did it there. And I will stretch this out for the entire area I want. Okay. Now that I have these defined, I should be able to go in to here and say chord symbol and slash regions. Okay, and that worked, and now I have to do the same thing over here. That is just so complicated to get what I want. Luckily, this is one where I can actually get what I want, because sometimes I can't, but that is so many steps instead of just being able to put my chords on the staff that I want. And if I wanted them in elsewhere, maybe have an option to checkbox to immediately add them elsewhere or something for that. But I don't know. I see why you have to do regions, because that would be the only way to deal with this. But otherwise, just let me put it here and only consider that one staff at a time. Okay, solution found. So hopefully it'll help someone else who's banging their head on the wall if they're trying to do anything like this, where they provide a written solo or also provide the ability for someone to make up their own. And that's pretty much how I had to do to fix this piece. So hopefully that can help you if you run into these same issues. And like I say, I've run into this one a bunch, and I've used exporting it into MuseScore and then dumping it back out to deal with it. Again, Dorico just says delete the offending music and export again. But if you don't, if you've just exported your stuff as MusicXML and don't plan on migrating anytime soon, you may not be able to open up Finale again and have it work to, especially if you're OS X. You probably won't have this problem if you're Windows, but if you're an OS X Apple user, you're probably more than likely will have this problem where Finale's not going to work and you can't do these kind of edits. That's why I really recommend people not waiting too long to migrate their music, because it may make it impossible or extremely difficult to fix it, because you may run into stuff where your music's just not there. And you have to do a lot of editing and work just to get it to get it to save all that time of importing. All right.